Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Even though I got education from UK, but since my English is my second language, so pardon me for my limited vocabulary, I think. It's really nice to be here. I like to thank the Anthology Festival to invite me to come here. Because nowadays, connecting Southeast Asian is super important. Have so many similarity, culture, history, food, and even the climate. So we if we connect each other, so we can share about many things. So I start Archinesia magazine with the target that creating network within Southeast Asian architecture. So Archinesia have a goal to create a network between Southeast Asian architects, and we do invite architects from region. However, until 2018, I know nothing about Philippine architects. It's so sad because I don't know how to know you all. Which way? Until one day, my architect friend, Daliana, from Sao, and Florian from Sao in Bandung, emailed me saying that, Imelda, since you have event of architecture for Southeast Asian architect, you should invite William T. Because she met him at WAF someday. So I said, oh, it's really nice. So I start invite his project. So his sent us project, and we publish it. And the project is the library, the small library. Maybe you know about that?
Yes, yes.
I heard it's small library
In front of the cathedral.
in the front of cathedral, in the city center, is it?
Yeah.
So it's in here, inside here. I show you as a proof that this is the first, this is the first Philippine architect published in our magazine, which is the others, mostly Indonesian architect project, Singapore, thank you so much, Singapore and Thailand. So that's a first my connecting with the Philippine architect. And then we do have an event like this, but much smaller. We invite William come to Jakarta last year. Unfortunately, just days before the event, his mother was passed away. So he said, what about if, I said, I cannot change with anyone because it's so sudden, but of course, I really understand. So he said, what about if my colleague, Arfin, comes to Jakarta? So Arfin come to Jakarta, and we really happy to having him. And then this year, we re-invite William to come to Jakarta. Together with Chad, so it's really gonna be nice event. And then Arvin told me about this event that he said there is Anthology Festival, and I said, is it Anthology magazine? No, it's running by Hong Kong. It's festival, okay. So he invited me. I was really amazed because this festival already the 5th time that we Indonesian did not know yet at all. So every day I post this event to my Instagram and to my magazine Instagram that our architect friend can see it. So hopefully next year we will have more Indonesian to come, and we also welcoming you to come to Indonesia as well. Maybe because we are running magazine, so Anthology give me a specific topic about millennial driver. Because I said, I don't do projects, so, okay, this okay, okay. So I think it's a really interesting project. Millennial become our focus as well as a media, because as a media you have to um, updating um, the situation all the time. You cannot left behind. So, but millennial words become so popular, that commercialized actually everywhere, saying about millennial. But first, maybe we talk about millennial. I asked my staff to do very small research, so I resume it. From the research, Goldman Sachs saying they are born in 1980 to 2000. That's millennial, and some research agree about that. So it's like people do think the same thing. So now they reach 30 years old to 40 years old. So my question, who are you here born between 1980 to 2000? Please raise the hand. Okay, 2 millennials here, not me. Ah, that's good, about 50%. So actually, they are not really the future. As like you are now. You now hold the important role of economy, social, and everything. But we found also from the research that millennial are very unique. So I like to confirm as well. The uniqueness millennial is they have been reluctant to buy items, especially the luxury goods, like cars and luxury branded stuff, like branded bags, shoe. That's what they told us. And this one, burden to ownership, giving the rise to what being called sharing economy. Millennial wellness is a daily, so they are so active, exercising more, eating smarter, smoking less, and this one, they willing to spend money for experience instead of things. Is it true? So, am I the only one not Filipino here in the stage? Okay. That's okay. So I want to know, first my question. What is millennial in your mind, in your opinion? Start with Barbie.
Hello. Yeah. Hi. So what is a millennial? Initially, I had a hard time agreeing that I was a millennial because I was born early parts of what you would call a millennial. Because during the initial stages, we were thinking that millennials were the disruptors. Because I was like in the cusp between millennial and the previous generation. But now I understand what being a millennial is. So being a millennial, I think, relative to architecture and everything else, is being more in tune to what are the effects of what you do, what you buy, what you sell. No, because in the previous generations, I think it was a given that whatever was out there in the market, it's up to you whether you want it or not. It didn't really matter if it was ethical. these are new things that become drivers to what people consume now. So I think the true sense of being a millennial is really being consensuous. I think that for me sums it up.
Bong, you like to say something?
I guess my first experience with millennials was, of course, in the office because the majority of our staff are millennials, and many of them are here in the audience today. But I did realize after a while that these guys, these young millennials, are more real than people of my generation. By the way, there is a word here in the Philippines for somebody like me who is amongst millennials. We are called phillennials,
Millennials.
feeling millennial.
Okay, that's
Okay. So, so in the course of my mingling with my staff, I realized that many of the millennials that work in the office are more real people. They're more aware of what you really can and what you really cannot do. Like you mentioned earlier, they want to spend their money where it will make a difference in their lives. They're not into branded labels. They want to save their money not to buy luxury items, but to be able to travel and see more things. It's more experiential for them. No? And I think I really appreciate that because my generation, we were called baby boomers, I think, at that time. And it was the complete opposite. It was the complete opposite. And the baby boomers that you see today are the ones driving the Maseratis, traveling in business and first class. But the millennials, I can really feel for them because maybe if I were to be born again, I probably would have wanted to be born in this generation of millennials. No, because it's exciting. It's really exciting times for them.
you said millennials more real. What unreal of previous generation then?
Well, I think the priorities were quite different then. Between saving money to buy a Louis Vuitton bag and saving money to go and see sites in Hong Kong, the millennials will save money to go and travel and see places that people have never seen before. And when they travel, they want to travel to see places that nobody has ever seen before.
Right. Okay, right.
Backpackers, basically, right? They want to explore, they want to rough it out, not in some five-star hotel. And that's what I mean, I think, by being more real, being more grounded.
Hello. Okay. For me, I've always thought of being called as a millennial as something that's bad. There's millennials have a certain bad rap. When you speak of younger designers and architects and creatives, people think that they're very trendy, they're very temporary, they're very of this moment but not of a longer term. I think being a millennial should be more about a mindset na when we look at office spaces, who said office spaces should be just tables and chairs? Our generation started questioning why that is so. When you say you should ask where you get your coffee beans or where you're more mindful about what you consume. People from the past generations don't really ask those questions. So I think our generation is more mindful of where we get our things, more mindful of where our generation will lead to. We tend to ask more questions and we try to ask why things are this way. And I think that's the most important thing millennials should take on as a challenge now.
Yes, that's correct. So I like to share you my interesting experience with millennials. So same with you all and Bong that now we do have most our staff are millennials. So when they said millennials do not like to buy luxurious things, including cars, this is my experience. So one day, I have a project in Bandung. So as a previous generation, go to Bandung, what I'm thinking is by car. Public transport to Bandung not good as well and it'll take longer time because we have to travel to the station, take a train and etc. And in Bandung we don't have transport is absolutely hassle. So I said, I want to drive. And my husband said, you will tired. No, because I have two staff, two young men staff. Okay, so we start. And I asked two young men beside me, who could drive? No one raised the hand. I said, you cannot drive. Cannot. They are young, fresh, tall, and also come from quite educated family that must be have cars. Your parents have cars, right? Yes. You don't have license. One said, I do have license but never drive. Okay, so how could you? And they said, what for? Because now there is online, you do have online transport as well, right? With online transport, the online transport pick you up from point to point. Okay, so at that time I drove from Jakarta to Bandung and the traffic jam is so bad, so 4 or 5 hours with two young men. That's the first time for me because it's my school time. My friend, my male friend, will not allow me to drive. So it was shock. Second, our office at the high-rise building, just exactly at the front of the big mall. Every day, I ask the staff, what do you like to eat? Oh, we did order. How? Because they're so quiet. How did you order? Mobile phone with the Go food. So the food will come. And you know what? Even the motorcycle driver never drive the motorcycle because they get the order from my staff and they walk to the mall and walk to my building and call my staff to pick up the. So even they don't want to walk. So that's so funny. And I'm thinking that's also gonna change the scheme of architecture. My question, if that's the fact we're facing, what your response as an architect in practice? Maybe Bong, can you answer?
Yeah, I think more and more people are now using the services. The company that we have here in the Philippines is called Grab. And there are others, I'm sure, that will follow suit. And in terms of changing the face of architecture, a lot more questions are being asked now about car parking spaces. The big among developers anyway, every time you tell them, oh, you have to build 1,000 parking spaces because your building is so big, they cringe at the thought of having to build so many car park spaces that will only take up precious space for them instead of being able to sell these spaces at the normal rates of an office or a condo. It'll only be a parking space. But I think more and more, as the popularity of online transportation becomes the norm, I think building officials will probably have to review how they manage their requirements for parking buildings. Because parking buildings, the more you have them, the more you spend, but they're not used all that much. And when they are, then you're inviting more people to bring their cars and drive, thus creating more traffic on the streets. No? So I think and I hope that probably in the not too distant future, services for online transportation will get better, so much so that the governments can embrace this system of transport. And maybe this is the answer to the traffic situation here in Metro Manila. I think in Indonesia, you also have issues of traffic, am I right? In Jakarta especially?
Yes, correct. But the traffic now is totally changed. If the previous time, the traffic, because of private cars and motorcycle, now 80% on the road, motorcycle are Gojek and Grab.
Yes. Well,
And the problem is, as usual, people do not catch up fast, especially the architect, because they don't have space for park, for waiting. So that's what we're facing now.
So I think siguro I'll speak from a perspective muna of running a studio that's very young. Our studio is 5 years old pa lang. We have 5 people in the office. Most of them born 1995 to 2000. So
Really new millennial.
yeah. So our studio doesn't have a car. We go to meetings by commute. We take Grab. Before, when we had Uber, we would schedule our meetings. Tapos I would schedule a time when the Uber would come. Say 30 minutes from now, the Uber will be by our building. Tapos we don't have messengers. We use Transportify or Grab Express. We don't. Our office is in Chinatown, so we walk to Ying, Ying Ying, all of those cheap Chinese restaurants. Pero when we sometimes don't want to go out, yun nga, we order also from Grab food. Our generation is very, I guess, receptive of this common economy. Something you spoke a while ago about being in a shared economy. This generation is very open to sharing a lot of things. Sharing a car, you have Grab Share for that. Sharing office spaces, you have co-working spaces for that. So architecture really should adapt to how this generation changes. I think in a sense, architecture should really be fluid. It doesn't really speak about it being a millennial type of architecture. It's architecture that adapts to the needs of the people. So.
To add to that, no, I agree. I think the best way to adapt is to build spaces that are really flexible in the true sense of the word. Because, disruptors come in like every month. There's a new disruptor. Right now it's Uber, it's these food delivery services, but that's just one app away. The new thing is always just one app away. And you can't build a building or design a building now for what is the current trends. Because, everyone knows it takes at least 3 years for a building to actually stand and be something tangible. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 years. So the spaces that we build right now have to be flexible. We have to cater to whatever, technology throws at us all the time.
Yeah, Bong, you have longer experience, and you quite aware about these changes. So how do you deal with client when client still wants that space?
I'm sorry, can you say that again? How do we deal?
How you advise your client when your client still wants a big the space like a previous time?
Sorry. Well, we've actually found that there are many clients who are very, very much in touch with what's happening around. Now, in fact, they're the ones that tell us, I want a co-working space here. I want to have a nice area here where people can gather, etc., etc. So in some aspects, they're very much in touch with the pulse of what's happening here, and they know that that's what will sell. At the moment, I think the millennial market here pretty much dominates what's happening in every aspect of life here in Manila right now. So as Art said, everything is, Barbie who just said, everything is one app away, no? And don't forget that developers also employ millennials. No, so they seek advice from these younger guys. In our practice now, we are finding that the older generation that has founded that particular company is starting to pass on. The children are now starting to take over. And the children are the ones who are much younger, who are very much in touch with what's happening, and they're the ones that drive the project now. So in a sense, as time goes, I think the people who are in the driver's seat for doing these developments are also very much aware of what is happening, what is the trend, what should they and not do or not do?
Right. I do have experience in Jakarta. Jakarta have big malls. And it said that the biggest square meter malls is in Jakarta through Southeast Asia. But I heard Manila also have very big, a lot of mall and big one. And now they are so empty. Within last few months, crisis happening, online shopping rise up, so it's changed a lot, the attitude of shopping. Last month, my architect colleague in Kuala Lumpur asked by developer research to research about malls because now developers, especially having malls, they thinking to change the mall, become other space. What about in the Philippines or Manila? Can you tell me?
In the Philippines, it's a good thing that although there is online shopping, for the malls, people still do like eating outside. So what's happened now is instead of having all of the eating areas just in one section and all of the shopping areas in one section, right now what happens is the key locators are actually the F&B outlets because people might not have been going to the mall to shop, but they will go there to eat. So make sure that on their way to eating, they drop by the shops. So that's, I mean, the base of the building is still the same, but you adapt it by relocating your key areas. That's a trend that I've been seeing.
So eating still happen because
Yes.
my architect's friend from Kuala Lumpur, they will advise, based on his research, they will advise the mall change to the hospital, to be a school, and also hotels. What do you think, Bong?
The nature of malls is evolving, and I think the developers of malls are starting to see new ways of bringing in people. For example, in the past maybe more than 10 years, some malls have started to introduce medical facilities inside the mall.
Okay.
Outpatient stuff, right? That's one. Number two, the Philippines is a predominantly Catholic country, 90% Catholics. So they've now introduced chapels inside the malls.
Wow.
Imagine that. You can spend
Really?
the whole day on a Sunday in a mall, and God will be happy because you can still hear mass while shopping, right? And then the medical facilities, you go there, you get an injection, you feel bad because you're sick, and then the housewives will go treat themselves to a brand new bag to make them feel good, right? After coming from a treatment like that. So that's how things are evolving now, and they're still trying to find more new ways to bring people and kind of change the appeal of malls.
Wow, very interesting. It's a great solution. What about you?
I think generally this generation is looking for more authentic experiences. Malls for the past, I guess, 2 decades since the first SMs pop up. Parang the guidelines and all of the architecture and interior design kind of homogenized in a way. So people started looking outwards to different spaces. I work in Escolta and we also have retail spaces at the ground floor that offer a little bit of history with items that are more mindfully sourced. So I think generally people are looking for authentic experiences because you see that also happening on the interior designs inside the malls where some of the stores kind of replicate certain elements that they see in old buildings or warehouses. So you only see that trend because I guess people are sort of looking for a different mood or a different offer from what they have already now.
Something unique that has been happening, well, not unique, but it's been happening a lot the past couple of years, and I think it's millennial driven, is all of these pop-up stores. Pop-up stores.
Pop-up stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What they do is they assemble together. These are like food trucks, for example.
Okay.
So it's all food, and then you just go there and buy what you want. And these are all made by the chefs who own the food trucks themselves, or they have pop-up sale of fashion items or electronics. So these can happen anywhere. I mean,
Yeah.
right outside in that garden there, you can park 4 trucks there and they can sell blah blah blah. At the end of the day, they pack up and leave, and then they go somewhere else again.
Yeah.
So this I think is a very much happening now in the field of the millennials.
Yeah, if I may add also, one of the things that we do in Escolta, I have an architecture studio there, but I'm also part of a creative community that tries to revitalize downtown Manila. So one of the things that we do is we close off 2 blocks of Escolta and fill it up with the street market, something like Sir Bong mentioned. I think it's a response to how we consume and how we look at things that we buy off the shelf. Most of the things that we invite to fill up the streets are more locally made, thoughtfully made, or sourced. Basically supporting local craftsmen. So, yun, I think retail is evolving. It's not just inside a small box anymore. It can be anywhere, and retail should be more about the concept or what your product offers rather than where you put it.
Right.
Wow, so it's the millennials do not want something permanent or long term, so they want something instant, spontaneous and
Yes, that's
change
right.
the places. Um, yeah, it's really interesting because you guys here, as an architect, you are really aware of the change, and also not only the space but also the communication of the millennials totally different compared with previous one. Especially, I think we cannot talk about millennials without talk about social media. Um, I like to ask, anyone here do not have social media? You?
Millennial, eh? No, I do not. I do not engage the social media.
Wow. Okay.
I
Interesting.
am off the radar, as they say.
Anyone else? Okay, I like to ask, what do you have the most? Facebook? Uh, who do not have Facebook? Of course you. um, Instagram? Yes? Who do not have Instagram?
I have Instagram. Wow.
You have Instagram.
I actually have Instagram. Yes.
That you have social media then.
Yeah, I lied.
Who do not have Instagram? 1,
There's a few there.
2, 3. That you have Instagram, please follow my Instagram, Imelda, Akmal, and Archinesia, okay? Promotion. Okay, this also based on my experience. Just 2 weeks ago, I sit down with young architect. This young architect do very interesting project. So he found that young people actually still want to have house, especially when they got married after 3 years old, 30 years old, they have children, so they want to out from the parents' house, but they don't have enough money. This architect, he used steel, and he tried a lot of effort that there is no waste at all. So the steel house, besides good design, also not cheap, but good price. So 2 years ago, when he started this project, he only have 2 projects in his hand. And next year, the next year, there is an exhibition. We call it Bintaro Design District, found by Andra Martin and 3 other architect, designer, not only about architecture, but also about design, because in Jakarta, we have a particular district called Bintaro, where there stay about more than 30 architecture firm, filmmaker, musician, and a lot of designer practitioners. And then the festival becomes so popular, and when these architects do open house, the next day they got many projects. And because Bintaro Design District use Instagram, it's become popular. And now, when I ask him if I like to do with you a house, how could I do? And he said, I'm sorry because you have to wait. Okay, until when? March. That's not bad. 2021. I said, what? He just started 2 years ago. And that just because the Instagram of Bintaro Design District Festival. And he said, yes, start with that Instagram. I now got client 90% from Instagram. In the past, when he first started, 90% word of mouth, 10% Instagram, social media, but now at the opposite way. And he said, my friend even better, because now 100% from social media. So again, my question, how this social media impact to Philippine architects or architecture? You, the youngest one, maybe you can tell me.
Hi.
Me?
Okay, I think generally
Serrano.
our studio is very online in terms of Facebook and Instagram visibility. To be honest, almost 90% of the clients we got last year came from Instagram. They don't email. They just messaged over my Instagram account.
My goodness,
So-
do email?
Yeah, that's one thing that we saw change also last year. I think in the same way that the festival, I think in what you said, influenced how he practiced. I guess the things that we do in the Escolta Block festival kind of, I guess, gave birth to different projects also. Although being this visibility online is a double-edged sword. I think we should also be very careful about the content that we put out. We still should be mindful about being authentic in what we put out. Kasi we see trends in influencers posting a lot of things that are fake, and then people finding out that this work has been copied from this work. So I think at the end of the day, authenticity still trumps visibility. You should be very well aware that what you put out is really yours, and what you put out has content that matters.
So what social media the most you use at the moment?
I use Instagram a lot.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So you still doesn't want to
The
do
youngest.
social
in the-
media instead of Instagram?
Well,
What's your experience actually? What's your do you got client from Instagram?
actually, I use my Instagram account. What I share there, my picture never comes out in my Instagram account, never. I usually use it really more for sharing human, diba? And I like to make people laugh. I like to share experiences and stuff like that, no? So this is how I use my Instagram. Really more, not to promote myself, not to promote the firm, because I think the millennials, there are more than enough people in the firm that can do that on social media. So I concentrate my Instagram account more on human interest subjects. But in terms of getting clients, I think, as I said, I have enough people that do that for me. And I think meeting people face to face and having that, doing that handshake is so much more fulfilling than getting somebody, oh, I saw you on Instagram. I mean, it's great when it happens, no? But I think meeting people face to face for me is a more fulfilling experience.
And maybe because in your case, because you start long time ago the architecture
Not
firm.
too long ago, naman. Not too long ago. Okay.
How long? Of course, people know you before Art, Serrano, and Barbie, right? So the millennial have to do other effort to introduce themselves.
Yeah. For our firm, interestingly enough, we do have social media. So I work for Casas Architects, which actually started as a partnership with Sir Bong here. No, so we do have Facebook and Instagram, a corporate account, but it's not really for client acquisition because our clients, I highly doubt, are looking for architects through social media just because we do have a different client base from what art would have. So most of our clients would be developers. So we use Instagram and Facebook actually for talent acquisition. So that's how we let the young people know that we are in existence. These are the things that we do. If you want to start a job doing what we do, then you know where to look for us. More on that aspect, not really for clients.
Not for clients.
Not
Oh,
for clients.
Okay. Maybe other thinking from the audience here about social media and architecture? Anyone use social media for promoting your projects?
I think most of the people here are students. Is that right? Are you guys students? Yes. So maybe we could ask them how they use social media to inspire them with their design. Do you look at Instagram, Pinterest when you're starting a design project for school?
Oh my gosh, don't get me started about Pinterest. You should be, parang still be focused on the experience, not with what you see. Kasi with that trend, parang the design practice would turn into just following what other people have done and not really offering something new or different that is more attuned to what your client needs. So although Pinterest and Instagram, as I said kanina, kind of gives more connection to different people, you should always be more focused in what your client or project actually needs.
Yeah, and I really agree with you that using social media, you still have to be authentic. But how you do it? How specifically you do that? You do your social media.
Well, most of the projects that we post there are we try to give attention more to how the project was produced rather than the actual project in itself. The output, bale. Parang we wanted people to understand how, say, a restaurant was built. What was the thought process leading to the space that was built, and not just putting out something that other people can do. We want other people to understand how we did it. I guess that kind of breaks down the barrier of parang letting people understand your process instead of just seeing a visual output.
Okay. So for this stage, I like to give time to question from the audience. Maybe like to ask question to the panelists about this topic about millennial driven. Anyone?
They're all looking away. So
Actually,
Just like my
they're all
students,
looking
no?
at their cell phones. Actually, it's more like it.
That's millennial looking at phones. Not yet.
Guys, especially the students. I mean, you have us here, no? So maybe this is an opportunity to ask whatever, right? No brave soul? Oh, there's one brave soul there. I paid him 100 pesos kanina to ask the first question.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Jimmy Hermogenes. I used to work for Architect Bong. No? My question is, we've talked about Facebook, the importance of IG, Facebook. How about websites? Are they still relevant? Or is there still an audience for websites, or should we just concentrate on social media or on IG and Facebook?
yeah.
Who do have website? You do
We
have
we
website.
have a website and we've been updating it every 2 years, I think. I think it's still very important to have an active website. Just because, when you're looking at social media, it comes in like a post at a time. It's not really cohesive. Not unless the person is really so engrossed in what you produce that they go to your actual page. But with a website, they can see everything that you have to offer. Yeah, so we do still keep a very active website.
Yeah, Jimmy. So we also still keep our website updated all the time. Still, it's still a very relevant tool for potential clients to see what you've done.
We actually don't have a website, so it's a very millennial thing to ano. Not because we don't see it as an important thing to have, pero I think it's something that we can have in the future. Kasi since we're a young studio, our portfolio is still a bit under progress. So I think important pa rin ang websites, pero it doesn't hurt also to have a very strong social media presence.
Based on my experience in media, for digital and online, for a company, website is still important because website is our home. Social media is not our home. It's a public space. So whenever a client or whoever like us, where we looking for like a speaker or we like to invite architects submit to our publication. So when we type your name, your company, when the website come up, so it's like I go to your house. However, if in Google search come up your name only social media, so we thinking you not serious yet. That's what we think. So even though the website only 1 or 2 pages introduce about you or your work, about what your philosophy is quite enough. That we know a little bit about you, then we can contact you later on after we know about the website. So it's still, I heard it's still very important. But in terms of media, because I from media, and then people always ask me, why do you still do print? Archinesia still in print. I like to ask question to you. Maybe you can answer, and also Barbie, Bong, and Serrano. Do you think you still architecture or architects still need print media?
I think we still need print kasi even locally it's a bit of a dying industry din print in the Philippines, but there's still something very different about a tactile a reminder of what influences or interests can maybe affect you as a designer. So I think it's still a romantic thing to have print, and it's a very important thing to shape societies and how we design.
Yeah, I agree. It's very different when you're talking to a client and you tell the client, oh yeah, you can see our projects, this is our website address. They look at you with a blank stare. As compared to, you give them a company profile that they can hold, they can see the pictures right there and then, very, very different. Tama ba? Very different. So, yes, the printed media is still very effective.
So you still read print media? That's good news for us. But they are very expensive. That's why they're dying. Because everything with the online that's become much more cheaper. Everything. So that's a thing that we have to consider. So since architect, what they're doing is about the future. You design right now, you build tomorrow, but the building finish next 2 years or even 4 years if a higher is building a big buildings. So since the change now so fast, and millennials are born 80 to 2000. What about next step? What do you think? What's gonna happen in architecture?
I think it's not only the end product that's changing, even the way that we deliver the service, I think has changed a lot since the time that I started practicing, no? So recently we've been getting projects that have a different service delivery, meaning coming from a design firm. We now get a lot of projects which are design build. That way buildings are built faster because the contractors are involved and during the conceptual stages. Clients are also very much aware of the changes in costs. So right now, the quantity surveyors are on board already during concept, which wasn't the norm before. Before, quantity surveyors were only involved later stages na during bidding. No? So it's really not just the end product that's changing, but the way that we deliver services. Even the programs that we're using. So in college, I did everything manually. I don't think students do that anymore. So I did up until my thesis manually. I learned AutoCAD. I have no idea how to use Revit, and that's what you guys know, right? So even that changes. So I think the younger people can easily adapt because they grew up with technology, unlike the previous generations or the older millennials like myself. No? So I think it's not only the end product that we have to focus on when we see change in architecture. It's the way that we ourselves are able to adapt. So we have to know that there is no end in information that we can get. I think that's a very important point in this time in our lives, not only for architecture, but everything in general, just because everything's changing.
So you have to keep updating.
Yes.
Technically,
that's right.
what you doing for that?
Yeah, so our firm, what we do is we have a dedicated team for research and development. So we not only look into new project types, we look into new ways of project delivery, we look into new materials. Everything that's new has to be, studied carefully. Do we adapt it? Do we not adapt it? So you have to still stay in tune with what's new, even though we are a fairly old practice.
Any opinion about that?
To me, I think the future of architecture is everything that you all have seen in Star Wars.
Star Wars, what is it?
The movie, Star Wars.
I know.
Yeah, but
Which one?
I mean, if you look at the Star Wars, you look at the set design of Star Wars, can you imagine buildings looking like that here in the Philippines or in Asia, for that matter, in the near future? It's pretty amazing. I remember when all these fantastic new buildings were built for the Beijing Olympics. Somebody from Ove Arup and Partners was interviewed, and they engineered most of the buildings there. And they said that, and this was like what, 10 years ago? One of the engineers there said, if it weren't for computers designing the aquatic center, for example, with the pillow roof, would have taken 20 years for them to design without computers. So imagine the power of the computers that we have today that enables us to be able to do all of these amazing looking buildings bent out of shape that still stand. So the future, that's why I'm saying Star Wars, because really many of our buildings are starting to look like those. All the new airports that you see are starting to look like Star Wars sets, no? The new one that Zaha Hadid just did for Beijing, you look at it from afar, it looks like something from the Force, So, but that to me, I think, this is not going to happen in my lifetime, I think, but that is what I see happening. Back in my day, we used to watch Flash Gordon. Who remembers Flash Gordon? Nobody. Anyway, we were saying Flash Gordon, or even Star Trek for that matter, Star Trek. I mean, many of the things that you used to see before are happening now. So pretty soon, a client can call you and you can just teleport yourself to the next meeting without having to ride a car. Yeah. So,
Uh, so hard to think about architecture for the future. It's a very conceptual thing to to think about. But I guess looking at it from an point of view that's a bit closer, you would see practices and studios now changing the way we do our designs. It's not as segmented as before. You don't have encoders only. You don't have people who do AutoCAD or people who do 3D or render. You have someone who does everything. And I think that integration of different facets of architecture is something that would lead us to that architecture of the future, where using different programs like Rhino or Grasshopper or whatever new program that would pop up wouldn't be as romanticized as this is now. Parang it's all going to be part of the process, and what's going to be produced after that is more, more complete, I guess, kasi cohesive, kasi you have this vision and you can already execute it using the tools that you already have. So I think that's one part of the future of architecture. And for us, it's also very important to go beyond the box that is your studio. As an architecture studio or as an architect, you also need to think about the bigger picture or how you can contribute to how the community around you is shaped. Our generation is likes questioning a lot of things about how our cities are built, how our heritage is being preserved, how traffic affects a lot of things about everyday life. And I think as architects, we play a hand in trying to give solutions to those questions that our cities have. So.
Can I just say one?
Sure.
I think because a lot of the audience here today are really mostly students, no? And because of the availability of technology at your fingertips now, I find that many of the designs that I see are very coldly delivered, for want of a better word, no? But I would like to tell you guys that in spite of all of the technology that's available now, for the future of architecture, I think it's very important that you hold on to everything that you've been taught from the beginning, now from first year until your fifth year, that your architecture must always have a soul. You know, and what is that soul? The soul is what's going to give it life, what's going to make it memorable, what will make it talked about by a lot of people, rather than just generating everything from just a computer. No? So I think it's very important that you guys, when you start thinking about your designs, that you have to put some soul into your design, no? Not just something that's printed out of a plotter.
Saying
Yeah.
about that, it's very interesting because technology could replace a lot of things, especially with the artificial intelligence. So what do you think, Bong? Is a technology could replace architects? Because now big data can record anything that they can mimicry what human can do.
Again, a double-edged sword. So I think it'll be up to the individual to determine where to draw the boundaries for how much they want to put technology into their designs, into their architecture. So a lot of it goes back to the values of that person, how they want to deliver their project, how they want to interact with their clients. There's nothing wrong with it. Certainly it's going to speed up the process, but I think it all goes back to the soul of the architect and the architecture.
And Barbie, based on discussion, it seems you are very prepared about millennials driver. Maybe because you also millennials and you are teaching, so you have students, so you keep updating about the current situation and the next what thing. Is that perfect about millennials, or you don't facing any problem with it?
I don't think there's a generation that's perfect. No, so I think there are pros and cons to what millennials have been exposed to. I think the primary pro point is that they are very much in tune with their art, which is architecture. When I ask my students why they want to be architects, it's very most often it's because they want to change the world. You know, during my time, if you ask people that, you'd get maybe 1 or 2 people from a class of 40 that will answer you that. Now it's like 100%. They all want to change the world. And it's
Wow.
because they understand that the world that they live in is not perfect. You know, so that I think is their number one best asset. What makes them not perfect is, I think, what I try to do with my students is prepare them for the real world. Because I think that when you're students, it's very easy to think na, okay, when I graduate, I am going to change the world. You know, and I get these students that become depressed after. And they come to me and say, Ma'am, what happened? I'm so sad. And then I'm like, you know, no one told you life is easy. And I'm not telling you you're not going to change the world, but you're not going to change it today. So you have to know that if you want to change something, you actually work for it. You know, yeah.
Do you like to add something?
Nawala yung train of thought ko.
You seem you like to add something. You can keep thinking. Maybe there is questions from the floor. We just have 5 minutes more.
There.
From there? Anyone? Yes?
Yeah, the lady
Rise up.
Yeah.
Can somebody deliver the mic?
I'm Jace Alohasin from University of Science and Technology of Southern Philippines in Cagayan de Oro City. I would like to ask, earlier we talked about social media, especially Instagram, and I actually read about this article from Angel Yulo about architecture in the age of Instagram. It says there that architecture nowadays are more focused on, or should I say, it's leaning in more into the aesthetics, because in Instagram you usually post something that would impress other people. So usually the some firms, architecture or something. If you search hashtag architecture in Instagram, you'll see very beautiful pictures of architecture. Like when you can see it, you'll say, "Wow, that's beautiful," and I would like to copy that. So the problem here is that the aesthetics is more, what do you call that? The designs, they said that the architecture today is leaning to mostly the aesthetics, and the function is only on the second. So I want to know what your opinions about that. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's one thing that we mentioned kanina about social media being a double-edged thing. It connects everyone in a way that everyone hasn't been connected in generations before, but also it gives rise to a very superficial mindset of looking at things on the surface level lang. It's very important to also be mindful about the content of what you post. Say you post a restaurant, what we do is we identify how we came about with that process, and we try to avoid just showing a simple image of what we provided our client. That way, we kind of invite everyone to be part of the process para makita nila how we came about with a certain idea. Yeah, I think.
I always cringe when I hear clients say, I want something Instagrammable, because I don't think that's the true mark of something that's well designed. I mean, if you're doing something well designed, it should be so well designed that people forget to take pictures. You know, have you ever been to a space wherein you're just so engrossed, you're just so into it? For example, you're doing a restaurant, you're just having so much fun with your family, eating, getting good food, that you don't take pictures. Doesn't that make you feel like you did your job well enough. You know, it doesn't have to be something that's nice in pictures because you experience architecture not through pictures, but through actually using the space. So, yeah, to your point, I don't think Instagrammable is, you know, the best asset architecture has to offer.
I agree with you because since the change is so fast, actually in my experience in Jakarta, now Instagram anymore. So surprisingly, YouTube for architectures come up. YouTube because we can we can explain longer with the sound, with the visual, and also with the text, uh, with the with the voice. But also, trends coming. We do have TikTok. If you do have TikTok, TikTok is coming, and people say it's gonna replace Instagram. Even politicians do TikTok now in Indonesia. It's so surprise. But the mayors, the governor, do it, and that's what the message I think for millennials. If Barbie said most of the students say they like to change the world, I think don't worry, because the world changes all the time and become faster and faster. If anyone like to give a message for the younger architect or student here for the last word?
Hello, hello. I think we could ask more questions. We still have 15 minutes.
Oh, you still have 15 minutes because I saw 10 minutes there just now. Anyone, any question? Yes, from here.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Noel Bustamante. Since us, marami ng, I have to speak English ba? We are driven into making things more beautiful than the function we're going to be. In architecture, in this modern world, we always want to adapt on what do our model architects do, right? Dito kami nagkukulang, or this is what we lack. We lack on research, we lack to see what culture is, and we lack on what is history, and we lack what would be the process on doing architecture. As this seminar on Millennial Drivers, how can you help us to be a future problem solver and to be a better architect for the future? Ayun.
Wow, that's a good question. I think I like to start with Bong.
It's a bit difficult.
You asked me first because I'm the oldest here in the group, right?
No, you have longer experience,
No,
Bong.
well, I think it goes back to social media. Back in the day, we didn't have social media, so we'd always have to go to a library to do research. And even then, research material in our library in the school then was very, very sparse. No? So today you have social media. Even back then, travel was not very affordable, expensive. You didn't have this big sale that you have now among the airlines. So getting around your head on what to do with architecture was very difficult then. Today, you have social media at your fingertips, and you have thousands of sites that you can choose from, no? So I think attending symposiums like this is a starter. But I think for you to be able to reach out and see more without having to travel, social media is one way to do it right now. But I think you have to be a little bit more selective about what you want to dive into. What do you want to be an expert in? What kind of architecture do you want to practice? There's a lot of opportunities for you out there. No? So I think it'll just be a matter for you to choose which door you want to open and enter. There'll be many, many choices, and the decision's not going to be easy. When I'm sure even for Arts here, for him to decide that he wanted to go into Escolta and do restoration work and all of this, that wasn't an easy decision for him to do. Same with all of the other practicing architects here, no? But you have to pick your niche and then focus on that and develop it.
Yeah, I think adding to Sir Bong's...
Just bong na lang, wag na lang, sir.
Sige, sir. Sir. So adding to Bong's insight, I think what everyone should tap into is not what we see online, but rather what really piques your interest personally. Because if you're particularly interested in public spaces or in resolving solutions for traffic, you can do a concept on that. Or if you're interested in, siguro speaking from experience na lang, I'm very interested in heritage. I love Renaissance architecture back in college, and looking at Chinatown and Escolta and Intramuros in Manila, we see a lot of potential that is not tapped. So it's something that's been, I guess, connected to me in a spiritual way. And for you to practice architecture more completely, you need to be connected to that on a spiritual level. Say kami, we love heritage and we like introducing heritage to the younger generation. And that drive pa lang keeps us providing for architectural solutions for downtown Manila. Say it should all start with what you're interested at, and it should inform na how you would want to practice architecture.
Yes, and I totally agree with Bong about the research. So even though our studio in Jakarta is architectural writing studio, so our staff are architects, but they doing writing. And now we call it not writing studio anymore because the terminology also changed, start with this technology and online and digital. So now we call it content creator because not only text but also other medium. And until now, I always say to my staff, young one, especially millennials who born as a digital native, we call it. I said to them, when you do research, whatever we do, the work, we have to start with research. And whenever you do research, do not research from internet. That's the last effort you have to do. Why? Because 99% on the internet is rubbish. And internet have everything, visual, sound, that not allow you to slow down, to think. That's my tips. Not sure about you.
Yeah, I agree. So we were talking about like how what could help you become, the architect that you want to be. Aside from looking into, of course, things online, even hard print, I think the most credible resource would be having a mentor. I'm a very big proponent of that, no? Because having someone that could actually be there for you and help you grow is very different from just looking at pictures, reading stories. Even if you read like biographies of people who you idolize, it's not the same because people will not always share the hardships that they faced on their rise to the top. So it's important to have that personal relationship with someone that will really help your career to grow.
So yes, is it answer your question?
I think we have one more question here. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Hi. Hi, guys. How are you doing? Okay. My name is Yuji Labajo. I'm from the University of San Carlos in Cebu. And I also want to share an insight. It's more of a follow-up of what she said regarding about social media. Because I I'm a fifth-year architecture student, and a part of our, let's say, a part of our duty as architecture students is to really visit places designed by architects and to really experience the space. 2 days ago, I went to the Cultural Center of the Philippines to really experience the space for my thesis. I think because social media really does have its pros and cons for millennials or for people in all ages for that matter. But I think we tend to forget that as architecture students, when it comes to taking pictures of like buildings, we tend to forget that it's really more about the aesthetics or how well designed. And as architecture students, I think we should really I'm really nervous, I'm shaking. we should really experience the spaces and to really understand like why there's this certain flow, why is it designed in this aspect, why is it like this, why is it like that. And I think, and I like to say, for example, the new National Museum of Natural Sciences, I think, natural history. I have friends who just go there just to have yung, how we say, just for the Instagram, just for the feed. Pero for me, it's more than just the feed and just the Instagram, but to really experience the space. And I think that's something that I guess we should improve on. So I just want to know what's your take about that, about social media and people going for just for the Instagrammable spots and all. So thank you.
Sige, just to elaborate on my earlier answer, no. Earlier it was more of like what architects should strive for. Now we'll turn that a little bit and turn it into what you should strive for as students, no. So architecture is very much about appreciating, understanding, feeling the space. And that has nothing to do with Instagram. If you want to really understand a space, don't strive to take a perfect picture of it. Use it for its actual intention. If you're going to see CP, watch a play. That's the only way that you get to feel what architecture is supposed to be about.
I think it also goes back to what I said earlier, to make sure that you still have the soul of architecture there. Remember, somebody asked that the guy before you, remember that just because you build a 40-story building doesn't mean that that's the ultimate goal for you already. There are a lot of architectural gems in very small projects. No, so do not aspire that you want to build a 40, 50-story building just to know that you have arrived. No, that's a very wrong notion. You can do a very nice, simple orphanage, and it can be a great experience that you can design for the kids inside that orphanage. And I think when that kind of soul goes into your architecture, automatically the Instagrammable parts of that will come out naturally. It's not something that you intentionally design just because, oh, we need to have a place here where people can take pictures. No, I think if there is soul in your architecture, it will come out automatically.
That's absolutely true. Yes, so question from there? No?
I have to pay this guy another 100 pesos because he's asking.
Thank you. One question that came up into my mind is that since it's an age of just one click of a button, the image is distributed all around the world, right? So how about project confidentiality? Have you encountered issues about, before I read that IMPay, when he was designing the glass pyramid, he had to set up a separate office with a very select few employees so that they can keep it a secret. Does that still apply? Do you have mechanisms with the client or with your staff about confidentiality of the project?
Do you want to
Well,
answer, sir?
I think when we post out something on Instagram, it should be something that is already finalized. So that's one thing that you should clear with your clients if it's okay na to be put out. Say, before we had a project in Maestranza in Intramuros, and in finalizing all of the details in terms of its legality and all of that, doon lang namin kami pinayagan to put out the work that we made for that. I think it applies also to any project that you would have. Also, in terms of, I think the problem we have now is since everything is so accessible online, copyright would be an issue in terms of putting out work. Kaya it's very important that you arrive at your design solution, your architectural solution for the project in a process that's very unique to you as a studio. Kasi if you just see it online and then you copy it, nawawala yung soul that Bong mentioned. So you should understand how something comes about, incorporating all of the elements that are unique to that project.
For us speaking about the legality of it, we do have a non-disclosure agreement with most of our clients, and in turn, our staff sign a non-disclosure agreement with the firm so that no information about the building is to be sent out, not unless the building is already in construction. That's when the NDA ends.
Yeah, it's the same with us. Clients ask for non-disclosure agreements, Jimmy, no? But if there is a leak in the office and we find out where the leak comes from, the guy is shot. The guy is shot. Binabaril siya. Oh, no, hindi nila na-gets yung joke ko. No, but anyway, yes, we do sign non-disclosure agreements also, Jimmy.
Yeah, I think whatever the technology, we have to still consider the ethics, right? Even though everything now go online, but everything we have to be very, very careful about that.
I think with social media now, it's getting more and more difficult to implement the non-disclosure agreements because, you can just, everybody can take a picture now of anything,
Even
right?
the
And then you
corruption
post it on
people
social
the,
media, and there goes your NDA,
Yeah.
right? So, but it's a tough one to follow, Jimmy, really.
Yes, again, we facing the change of the world. Any question or the time up? Oh, the time is up, so we have to finish this discussion. Hopefully, I hope this a useful discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, guys, for joining us. Thank you so much, Mr.